Thaddeus Crane stepped off the rattling train onto the cracked platform of Gateway Town, a place that seemed caught between moments as if time itself hesitated here. The air was thick with an unsettling energy, faint whispers of otherworldly dimensions brushing at the edges of reality. The town's modest buildings and worn streets echoed a quiet normalcy, belying the chaotic forces simmering beneath the surface. Thaddeus's breath caught for a moment as he felt the pull of the invisible portals rumored to open without warning, swallowing and spitting out fragments of other worlds. Selene Virelis awaited him near the station, her sharp eyes scanning the horizon with a mixture of determination and unease. She was the one who had convinced Thaddeus to come, her voice crackling over the comms with urgent fragments of insight about the town's phenomena. Her role went beyond mere research. She was a bridge between reality and the unstable multiverse. "You're finally here," she said firmly, guiding him toward the town's center. "The disappearances are increasing, and the portals pulse like heartbeats nobody can predict." Her words carried the weight of countless sleepless nights spent mapping zones that flickered out of detail and sound. Their first steps took them through streets that whispered silent warnings, shattered windows frozen mid-smash, scorch marks from unknown energies, and faded markings scrawled hastily on walls. Selene explained the nature of the portals, unpredictable rips in the fabric of space and time that could open to eras long lost or dimensions yet unformed. "People stumble through them," she said quietly, "and most never return. Those who do come back different." Her voice trailed off, eyes darkening with memories of Mira Coldwin, a local who barely survived her crossing, yet wore pieces of that other world etched into her mind and flesh. Mira's story was haunting. When she wandered back, she was a husk of the woman she'd been, eyes empty except for flashes of foreign landscapes and distant, incomprehensible voices. Thaddeus sensed how much weight Selene bore. For Mira's survival to any extent was a rare flicker of hope amidst the darkness. Having suffered through the horrors of crossing, Mira now conveyed cryptic warnings about the portal's growing instability and the malevolent presence lurking just beyond the tiers. She described nested dimensions overlapping like lenses stacked unevenly, their alignment shifting toward chaos. As they walked, the air shimmered faintly, the telltale sign of a small portal flickering alive, only to vanish seconds later. Selene's hand shot out reflexively, fingers twitching as though she could grasp the intangible. "Corwin Hale is behind much of this," she whispered. "He's not just a man. He's a force manipulating the very rips in space-time, controlling where and when these gateways appear." The name struck Thaddeus with a chill. Corwin was a shadowy figure rumored to have harnessed powers from these breaches, twisting the town into a perilous nexus point. The town's mayor, Eamon Blackwood, presented a facade of calm, but to those paying close attention, his smile held too many secrets. Blackwood's silence on the portals and his efforts to downplay the disappearances stirred suspicions that his interests lay beyond preserving peace. Thaddeus pondered what lengths the mayor might go to keep Gateway Town's dangers hidden. Perhaps to protect the town, perhaps to shield something darker. His unease deepened, knowing that Lysandra Finch, an expert on ancient and arcane dimensions, had warned that these portals obeyed complex laws deeply entwined with forgotten cosmic forces. Forces Blackwood seemed intent on exploiting or dismissing. Gideon Rook, a rugged hunter with scarred hands from countless encounters with anomalies, joined their uneasy circle. His knowledge of tracking and surviving intradimensional phenomena was vital. Gideon's stories of close calls, creatures slipping through cracks, and hastily escaped rifts painted a vivid picture of a city hanging on the brink. His skepticism about authority and raw survival instincts balanced Selene's scientific approach, reminding everyone that understanding the portals required reckoning with dangers beyond mere theory. As the daylight began to fade, the horizon suddenly tore apart, showering the street in an iridescent glow. The largest portal yet opened, a swirling vortex offering no hint of what lay beyond. Panic gripped the townsfolk as screams echoed from nearby alleys. Another disappearance, another soul lost to the rift. Selena's steady voice cut through the chaos. We have to find a way to close these cracks, or find the means to stabilize them before the entire town becomes a gateway itself. Before whatever is outside consumes us all. Thaddeus felt the weight of the looming crisis settle over him like a storm cloud. They moved quickly to gather Mira, her fragmented memories still perhaps the key to understanding the portal's nature. Lysandra worked feverishly to decode ancient texts in hopes of identifying patterns in these disturbances. Each action felt desperate, their grasp on normalcy slipping with every flicker of the shifting shadows. Eamon Blackwood's mask of control began to crack as hidden alliances surfaced, revealing his fear of losing influence as the portals grew more volatile, threatening to unravel everything. Thaddeus realized that the town was not just a place, but a crucible where fates converged, where each step into the unknown risked losing oneself forever. The tapestry of realities folded and unfolded around them, fragile and unpredictable. He understood that the battle ahead would test every ounce of their courage and wit, forcing unlikely alliances and confronting secrets buried far beyond the surface. Gateway Town was awakening, its pulses ringing loud, calling warriors for a war that stretched beyond time. As night deepened, the group prepared to face the encroaching darkness together. The portals remained open wounds in the fabric of existence, ready to swallow or reveal truths no one dared imagine. The task was clear: decipher the mystery, close or control the gateways, and prevent their home from slipping into oblivion or worse. With each breath, Thaddeus felt the thin boundary between realities tremble, urging him onward into a fight that would define the fate of Gateway Town and perhaps all known existence. In the silence before dawn, they gathered once more, minds and hearts aligned in grim determination. The journey had only begun, and the corridors between worlds waited hungrily. Each flicker in the streetlight was no longer just shadow, but a glimpse into the unknown. Thaddeus knew they would not retreat from the coming storm, but face it head-on, with every lifeline they could grasp. Their fragile hope became a beacon in a city balancing on the edge of everything familiar, ready to step into the next chapter of the unraveling mystery. Тайны исчезновений. Thaddeus Crane stood at the edge of the faded stone bridge, his gaze fixed on the wavering shimmer that occasionally rippled through the humid air above the river. The town looked ordinary at a glance, but invisible fissures fragmented reality itself. He had spent endless hours piecing together the grim puzzle of those who vanished without a trace. Each disappearance left behind whispers of other worlds, haunting relics, and sometimes a single survivor bearing the scars of another dimension. Alongside him, Selene Varellis adjusted the parameters on her handheld scanner, the soft beep underlining the eerie silence that had settled over their clandestine investigation. Selene's expertise in portal research was essential. She had deciphered patterns in the erratic openings of the tear-like portals, predicting their appearance with increasing accuracy. Yet nothing had prepared them for the first meeting with Mira Coldwin. Mira's presence was unsettling. She emerged from the shadows of an abandoned warehouse, her eyes glassy yet piercing, reflections of unknown galaxies flickering within them. The fragments of alien realities embedded in her memory tormented her mind, weaving nightmares that defied human comprehension. Despite her trauma, Mira's vivid recollections held the key to understanding the portal's nature. Their encounters with Mira proved both a blessing and a curse. She described fleeting glimpses of epochs long gone and alien planets teeming with incomprehensible life. Occasionally, she muttered names and places that no one in the town had ever heard. The townsfolk whispered rumors of witches or mad women, but Thaddeus and Selene recognized her as the guardian of truth. Her fragmented recollections sometimes merged with theirs during their research sessions, revealing cryptic coordinates and warnings. However, each session pushed Mira closer to the edge of her sanity, forcing the team to balance the urgency of their mission with compassion for her fragile psyche. Meanwhile, the true nature of Eamon Blackwood's role in the town's mystery unraveled slowly but with heavy implications. The mayor's polished public image masked his disturbing obsession with controlling the unstable portals rather than containing them. Thaddeus had caught glimpses of Blackwood's secret communications, encoded messages hinting at deals with a shadowy figure named Corwin Hale. Corwin was no ordinary antagonist. He wielded control over the most dangerous anomalies, intensifying the chaos for unknown purposes. His appearance was as enigmatic as the portals themselves, a spectral presence capable of manipulating the very fabric of time and space within the town's boundaries. Lysandra Finch, their expert on ancient dimensions, theorized that the town itself was less a place and more a sentient nexus. According to her research, the portals were symptoms of a massive, unstable gate anchored beneath their feet. This gate flickered in and out of existence, threatening to collapse into an abyss that transcended conventional reality. The town's conventional geography was distorted by this liminal space, creating a trap wherein escape was impossible without confronting the culmination of these breaches. Lysandra cautioned that the town's very essence might be sacrificed if the fractures expanded unchecked, dissolving the familiar world into a maelstrom of eldritch infinity. During their investigations, Gideon Rook's experiences brought a practical dimension to the abstract threat. As a seasoned hunter of anomalies, Gideon had ventured through several portals, returning with a hardened resolve and cryptic warnings. His keen senses detected subtle shifts in atmospheric pressure and electromagnetic interference, early signs of imminent portal events. Unlike Mira, who suffered from memory splinters, Gideon remained largely intact but carried vivid scars and peculiar artifacts from beyond. He recounted harrowing escapes and encounters with entities that defied description, underscoring the dangers that awaited anyone who strayed too close to the unstable edges of reality. Together, the team sifted through missing persons reports, each disappearance revealing eerie similarities. Victims were last seen near known portal sites, their belongings marked by inexplicable symbols or embedded with strange materials. The group catalogued these anomalies, trying to establish a timeline between portal bursts and vanishing incidents. Selene ran simulations that hinted at an intensifying cycle, a crescendo of energy that threatened to burst the town into a permanent gateway. The pressure weighed heavily on everyone, but especially on Thaddeus, whose leadership was pushed to its limits as the scope of their challenge became grotesquely clear. Blackwood's political maneuvers added another layer of complexity. He launched public safety campaigns that ironically targeted the very people investigating disappearances. Under his directive, law enforcement increased surveillance on rumored portal hotspots, attempting to suppress rumors. Thaddeus faced constant interference, with official channels discrediting his findings and labeling the portal phenomenon as mere urban legend or hysteria. It became clear Blackwood's intentions were not just about preservation, but control, harnessing the portals for ambitions that none of them could yet fully grasp. Some nights, Thaddeus spotted Blackwood meeting with Corwin Hale in shuttered buildings, their hushed conversations pulsating with a dark gravity. Mira's condition worsened as more fragments of foreign realities invaded her thoughts. Her speech often slipped into forgotten tongues, and occasionally she spoke as though another consciousness in her mind was speaking through her. Lysandra speculated that Mira was a living conduit to parallel dimensions, a beacon for the chaotic energies that leached through the cracks. Her fluctuating grip on reality mirrored the town's own instability. The team debated whether to isolate her for her safety or integrate her further, hoping to unlock more secrets to save the city. Each option carried peril, weighing heavily on Thaddeus's conscience as the town seemed to pulse with an unseen clock ticking toward collapse. One evening, Gideon returned with alarming news. A fresh portal had erupted near the town's old clock tower, a place thick with history and ghost stories. The team rushed to the scene, witnessing the familiar distorting aura that signaled an active breach. The air shimmered like heat over pavement, but carried an icy bite, freezing the hair on their arms. Through the flickering haze, faint shapes emerged, echoes of other times and dimensions bleeding into theirs. Selena's equipment malfunctioned under the overwhelming interference, forcing them to rely on instinct. Suddenly, a desperate figure stumbled from the portal's edge, barely recognizable, eyes wide with terror, muttering about worlds dissolving. It was a survivor, but forever altered. As the survivor collapsed, Mira's demeanor shifted unexpectedly. She moved toward the figure, murmuring fragments of comfort and cryptic warnings. The room was thick with tension as the team realized that this cycle of disappearance and return was part of a larger, horrifying pattern. The boundaries between realities thinned, and their city teetered on the brink of becoming a nexus of chaos. It was now a race against time to understand whether the portals could be closed or if the only salvation lay in mastering the unstable forces they unleashed. As the night deepened, so did the mysteries, beckoning Thaddeus and his allies toward an uncertain but necessary confrontation looming just beyond the horizon. Взгляд в другие измерения. The air in the meeting room was thick with unspoken fears and anticipation as Lysandra Finch laid out the arcane diagrams sprawled before her. Thaddeus Crane, Selene Varellis, Mira Coldwin, and Gideon Rook watched intently, their faces a blend of skepticism and hope. Lysandra's voice, calm yet urgent, cut through the tension. "These portals are not mere tiers in space and time," she explained, "but intricate junctures woven from the very fabric of reality's multiple strands. The gateway town exists precariously as a nexus point, a fragile anchor tethering countless dimensions." Her eyes sparkled with the fervor of discovery. Every time a portal flashes open, it's a pulse in the underlying web of realities, an echo of alien worlds bleeding through. The townsfolk who vanish have been drawn into these alternate realms, some forever lost, others returning altered beyond recognition. Lysandra paused, studying each member of the team. Understanding the mechanism behind these openings is crucial. If we fail to stabilize or close them, the town will unravel, consumed by the relentless drift into the multiverse. Thaddeus absorbed her words deeply. As the group's reluctant leader, he felt the crushing weight of responsibility. He could no longer see this city as a mere backdrop of his own survival. It was a living, breathing enigma. His gaze turned to Mira, whose pale eyes reflected both trauma and determination, haunted by memories no one else shared. "Tell us again, Mira," Thaddeus insisted gently. "What happens in these other worlds you glimpse?" She swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. "They are a blend of beauty and horror. Some places shimmer with impossible light, others are shrouded in endless shadow. I remember voices, laughter from nowhere, and sometimes a cold so deep it feels like it seeps into your soul." Selene moved forward, her scientific curiosity ignited by Lysandra's revelations. "There must be a pattern to when and where these portals open," she mused, "like cosmic seams unraveling at weak points. If we can predict one, maybe we can prepare, perhaps even manipulate the energy to close them on demand." Gideon, whose survival instincts had kept him alive amid chaos, nodded grimly. "Predicting is one thing, but controlling is another. And we have Corwin to reckon with. His grasp over these energy surges, those cataclysmic rifts he conjures, it's why he remains such a formidable force." The mention of Corwin Hale drew a cold silence. His influence over the portals was no mere happenstance. It was an unnatural command that threatened to accelerate the town's collapse. Mistrust in the city's leadership simmered beneath the surface, especially directed toward Eamon Blackwood, the mayor, whose knowledge extended farther than he admitted. Eamon's secrets may hold keys to the mystery, Lysandra speculated. But so far, he guards them closely, perhaps to protect his own power or due to fear of what might be unleashed. The team's strategy hinged on combining Lysandra's theoretical expertise with Selena's practical research and their own hard-earned experience. Gideon recounted his encounters hunting anomalies, describing how some portals reacted violently to external stimuli, while others seemed sentient, shifting unpredictably, as if resisting interference. "We're dealing with a living network," he warned, "and every action sends ripples." Thaddeus felt the weight of these words as they settled in. The city was not merely a victim of temporal chaos, but an active battleground where forces beyond comprehension warred for dominance. Their investigation led to a hidden location deep beneath the city. Here, Lysandra revealed, the first-ever portal explosion had seemingly ruptured the earth itself, leaving behind a lingering thrum of unstable energy. As they ventured into the cavernous spaces punctuated by glowing fissures, time seemed to stretch and warp. Celine used her instruments to gauge pulse frequencies and spatial anomalies, while Mira quietly connected to the ambient sensations, her mind drawing tenuous threads between past visits and present dangers. "It's like walking through a heartbeat," Lysandra observed, "each ripple a summons to destinies unknown. If we are to protect this town, we must learn to listen to the rhythm and counterbalance the discord." Selene's data revealed patterns supporting Lysandra's theory. The portals were drawn to emotional peaks and collective fear, feeding on the desperation that churned in the citizenry. This realization deepened the urgency of their mission to stabilize the fractures before the entire reality bled away. Conflict with Corin became inevitable. His mastery allowed him to manipulate the portals, and with it, he threatened to consume or weaponize the town's very existence. In a tense confrontation, Thaddeus faced Corwin's cold resolve, sensing beneath the antagonist's exterior a pain twisted by exposure to countless dimensions. "You do not understand what you wield," Thaddeus warned. "This power will consume more than just the town. It will swallow you whole." Corwin's response was chilling. "Power belongs to those willing to embrace the infinite. I'm not afraid of dissolution, but creation." Their clash underscored the fragile balance of existence at stake, and how easy it was to become lost within the allure of infinite possibilities. In the aftermath, Lysandra proposed a radical theory, that the town's location was a focal point purposefully crafted in an ancient epoch, designed to be a gateway for travelers or conquerors. Harnessing ancient texts and her own arcane knowledge, Lysandra suggested a method of harmonizing the energy pulses through resonance, a way to soothe the violent outbursts into a stable flow. This approach required the cooperation of every team member and the willingness to confront their fears and altered states born from their experiences with the portals. Mira, despite her lingering trauma, volunteered to take a central role, driven by the fragments of her memories to protect others from sharing her fate. Preparations began under the city's shifting skies as the temporal fractures pulsated with increasing urgency. The team's unity felt fragile but resolute, bound by their mutual desperation and newfound insight. Lysandra's expertise illuminated a flicker of hope amidst despair, offering a lifeline to save not just the town, but the essence of reality tethered to it. The coming days would test their resolve, knowledge, and humanity. As the team gathered to implement the resonance ritual, a quiet dread settled. They sensed the town itself paused on a cusp, breath held between existence and oblivion. Yet within this daunting challenge lay a truth they could no longer ignore, that the gateway was both their prison and their salvation. With every flicker of light from the portals, the story of the gateway town writhed, alive and unpredictable, ready to reveal its next secret or its final fate. And so their journey continued, spiraling ever deeper into the mysteries beyond the veil, where every answer bred another question. Власть над разрывами. Thaddeus Crane stood at the edge of the crumbling plaza, the air thick with tension and the faint hum of unstable portals rippling through the cityscape. His eyes locked on Corwin Hale emerging from a swirling blue vortex that pulsed with unnatural energy. Hale's presence seemed to warp the very fabric of reality, twisting shadows and bending light in his wake. "This city is mine," Hale declared, voice low but sharp, reverberating through the fractured streets like a threat forged from the deepest abyss. "I control the gateways, and soon this place will cease to exist unless I command it." A chilling silence followed, broken only by the distant echoes of an unseen world calling through the cracks in the dimensions. Selene Virellis adjusted her goggles, reading the erratic oscillations of energy from Hale's portal manipulations. "He's not just opening these rifts," she whispered urgently to Thaddeus. "He's harnessing them, shaping the fractures to his will. If he succeeds, the city will be consumed in a cascade of realities colliding beyond our comprehension." Selene's voice trembled, the weight of the portal's instability pressing heavily on her shoulders. "We have to stop him before everything unravels." Her fingers danced over a battered scanner, mapping the volatile energy pulses as she searched for a pattern or weakness. Time was slipping through their grasp like grains of sand bleeding into the cosmic chaos. Mira Caldwin watched from the shadows, her eyes glazed with distant memories that did not belong to this realm. She had returned from a portal trip changed, fragments of alien landscapes and haunting whispers etched into her mind, a living bridge between dimensions. When Hale spoke, Mira felt a silent scream in the back of her mind, a warning coded in the fractured echoes of her lost experiences. "He's not just a threat to the city. He's a danger to what we are," she murmured, gripping the edge of a crumbled railing. "If he tears at these seams, there will be no coming back for anyone." Her face faltered, caught in the gravity of a reality dissolving at the edges. Eamon Blackwood, the city's mayor, appeared from the vast municipal building with a gaze sharpened by burden and hidden truths. His role in the crisis was buried beneath layers of political and existential complexity. "We knew the risks," he admitted grimly to Thaddeus, "but Corwin's ambition blinds him to the cost. I've been keeping the citizens in the dark, holding back the terrible truth that this city is itself a fragment of a broken portal system. Now, Corwin's actions could shatter the thin veil keeping us anchored." Eamon's voice carried the weight of someone forced to navigate between survival and doom, trapped between loyalty and horror. Lysandra Finch, clutching a well-worn tome of ancient symbols and dimensional lore, stepped forward, eyes blazing with a fierce resolve. "Corwin's power is unlike anything we have encountered. Even the oldest records hint at entities who could manipulate space-time itself, but few remained stable for long. We must find a way to sever his influence before his grip tightens completely." Her voice resonated with urgency, the scholar's mind racing through cryptic phrases that might hold the key to restoring balance. "The knowledge is fragmented, but there is a ritual buried deep in the texts. It might help us anchor the portals to a static point, if we can perform it under pressure." Gideon Rook appeared from the side alleys, bearing scars earned from countless hunts through unstable breaches. "I've tracked anomalies that carve edges into this reality, but none controlled by a single person. Hale is rewriting the rules. If we don't disrupt his connection, the fractures will become irreversible." His voice was hardened by experience, born from nights spent in spectral wilds beyond time's reach. "We need to hit him where it hurts, dismantle the source of his power." Gideon's gaze was relentless, scanning the towering spires and crumbled facades for weak spots in the city's unnatural armor. Together, The survivors formed a tense circle, their breaths visible in the chill that seemed born from the spatial rifts themselves. Thaddeus met each determined eye, his resolve solidifying beneath the weight of imminent destruction. "We have to unite everything we know," he said, voice steady despite the chaos. "Everything Seleni's research has uncovered, all of Lysandra's lore and Gideon's tactics. If Corwin can manipulate the portals, then there must be a way to disrupt his control, turn his strength against him." It was a glimpse of hope, fragile yet undeniable amid the encroaching void. As the city trembled beneath unpredictable pulses of dimensional collapse, Mira stepped closer, her fragmented memories flickering like distant stars connecting in a new constellation. "I've seen what's waiting beyond, horrors born not just of another time, but of irreconcilable realities clashing together. If we let Corwin's vision rage unchecked, we might awaken something far worse than this city's destruction." Her voice bore the weight of impending doom, charged with the understanding that the fate of all existence teetered on a knife's edge. Eamon folded his hands, a silent admission accompanying his next words. "We have contingency plans, but none suited for an enemy who controls the chaos itself. Presenting Corwin with resistance may accelerate his attempts to unravel this place, yet doing nothing guarantees oblivion." The mayor's confession hung heavy in the air, a grim calculus weighing the cost of action against the certainty of devastation. The fragile order of the city's existence was a balancing act on a razor-thin thread stretched between universes. Selena's fingers fluttered over her instruments, catching erratic pulses of energy spiraling toward ever wider rifts. "We might stabilize some of the smaller tiers," she suggested, "but it's a stopgap at best. The real solution, that ritual Lysandra found, is our only shot at resetting the city's core energy around a stable axis." Her gaze shifted between her comrades, the unspoken question lingering. Could they trust each other to carry out such a desperate plan when the city was already unraveling? "Every second counts," she added somberly. Thaddeus nodded toward the maze of fractured streets and flickering portals spiraling unpredictably. "Corwin controls more than just portals. He commands fear and chaos. We must be smarter, faster, and united. I want Gideon on reconnaissance. Find a weakness in Hale's new nexus point. Lysandra, prepare the ritual materials. Selene and Mira, monitor the portal shifts and emotional echoes. Eamon, keep the city's defenses ready for evacuation if needed." His voice was a steel thread tying them together, binding their diverse skills into a fragile equipoise against annihilation. A sudden, deep rumble sent shards of glass and dust swirling through the air as a massive portal flickered open atop the old cathedral, casting ghostly veils of light on the shattered streets. From its depths, tendrils of warped energy spilled forth, distorting the laws of reality in twisting spirals. Hale's figure emerged again, but this time with an air of unstoppable menace, wielding the accumulated power of countless realities bleeding into one another. "You cannot stop evolution," he sneered. "This city is the crucible of infinite worlds, and I am its master." His words ignited a spark of primal dread in the hearts of the survivors. Yet beneath the torrent of chaos rose a stubborn ember of hope. The team's disparate abilities began to weave into a plan beyond mere survival. Thaddeus felt the weight of responsibility press on him, but he also sensed the resolute fire in Lysandra's determined eyes and the quiet ferocity in Gideon's stance. Even Mira's whispered warnings held a secret promise. Knowledge forged in the cracks between worlds could be their salvation. In this desperate convergence, the fate of the city was no longer a passive sentence, but a battle to reclaim agency over the shattered fabric of reality. As twilight deepened and the city's unstable luminescence flickered like a dying flame, the survivors prepared to confront Corwin and the void he threatened to unleash. The lines between friend and foe blurred in the kaleidoscope of fractured times, but one truth remained clear. Control over the rifts meant control over existence itself. The struggle ahead would test their courage, wit, and bond as never before. Only through unity and relentless will could they hope to close the portals or bend their chaos into order. With the first step toward the ritual's enigma set and reconnaissance underway, the team dispersed into the fractured city, each shadow hiding dangers and possibilities alike. The tension was electric, woven into the very stones and whispered on the winds that carried the promise of either salvation or ultimate dissolution. As the rifts whispered secrets and threats in languages forgotten, the struggle for the city's soul had only begun, its outcome suspended in the uncertain balance between annihilation and resurrection, awaiting the next decisive move from those brave enough to seize it. Заперт в ловушке мультивселенной. The town looked unremarkable at first glance, its streets lined with familiar buildings and quiet corners that residents had long considered safe. Yet beneath this ordinary facade was an unstable force tearing at reality itself. Thaddeus Crane stood at the threshold of this chaos, feeling the weight of the town's hidden fate press upon his shoulders. Every attempt to leave had only plunged the town deeper into surreal disturbances. Roads twisted into impossible spirals, and echoes of distant worlds whispered in the wind. Thaddeus knew the key lay in understanding the portal's chaotic patterns. Selene Virelis, ever vigilant, adjusted her goggles as she studied the flickering distortions that danced around the edges of their makeshift lab. Her research into the brief windows into other dimensions filled every surface with charts and cryptic notes. "These portals are not random," she said intently. "They pulse with a strange rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. If we can decode that, we might predict when and where the next will open." Her voice held both hope and urgency. The team had no time to lose. Meanwhile, Corwin Hale watched from the shadows, a calculating smile playing on his lips. Unlike the others, he seemed to manipulate the energy that caused the tears in reality. His control over certain breaks gave him power few could match. He was both the architect of turmoil and an obstacle to salvation. His motives remained unclear, but his interference made any progress painfully slow. Amidst the chaos, Corwin's presence was a constant threat, shaping the unstable portal town to his inscrutable design. Mira Caldwin, one of the survivors altered forever by an encounter with a portal, shivered as she recounted fragmented memories. Faces and places that felt neither fully real nor entirely dream haunted her. Strange symbols branded her mind, intertwining with knowledge beyond earthly measure and nightmares she could hardly speak of. "I'm not sure I returned as myself," she whispered. Her unique insight was a double-edged sword. The fragments she carried could unlock the portal's secrets, but they also choked her with dread. Mayor Eamon Blackwood played his role with practiced restraint. Outwardly calm and composed, he kept crucial information hidden from the public. His uneasy alliance with Corwin masked a deeper fear. The revelation that the town wasn't just caught in a portal, but was itself part of a colossal and erratic gateway spanning countless realities. His reluctance to confront this truth contributed to growing tension and confusion. The people trusted him, yet he held the key to answers they desperately sought. Lysandra Finch pored over ancient tomes salvaged from forgotten manuscripts, her expertise in archaic dimensions proving invaluable. According to her findings, this was far from the first time worlds had collided here, and the town was situated at a nexus point where the fabric of space and time frayed repeatedly. The destabilization threatened not only their world, but an entire network of universes linked invisibly through these rifts. If balance was not restored, the town risked unraveling forever into this chaotic expanse. Gideon Rook, a rugged hunter of anomalies, scouted the outskirts tirelessly, tracking the shifting boundaries where reality bent. "I've seen places where gravity flips and skies bleed colors beyond description," he reported. His knowledge of these bizarre environments helped the team anticipate dangers and safe routes. Yet Gideon's hardened demeanor hid a growing desperation. He feared the city would become a tomb, swallowed by the very portal it was trapped within. His relentless pursuit of anomalies became a race against time. Together, the survivors faced mounting challenges. Cracks in the streets expanded unpredictably, and whispers from alternate eras drifted through alleys at twilight. Thaddeus proposed a bold experiment, synchronizing their devices to amplify Celine's pulse-reading method, aiming to stabilize the portal bursts long enough to analyze their source. It was a perilous gamble, but the alternative was succumbing entirely to the town's inevitable dissolution into the multiverse. The team's efforts unearthed disconcerting truths. The portal was a living construct, fluctuating like a storm confined by invisible barriers. Their town was both prisoner and protector of a fragile balance between dimensions. Attempts to escape unleashed new anomalies because the town's existence was intertwined with this cosmic rift. It was not merely a location, but a junction point where countless realities converged and clashed. To sever the portals recklessly would risk catastrophic collapse. Celine's pulse theory gained traction, revealing cyclical surges matching ancient dimensional cycles Lysandra deciphered. Meanwhile, Corwin's manipulations introduced chaos that nearly shattered the fragile connections they sought to repair. His interference became more aggressive, hinting at secret motives tied to control over the multiverse's power. Against this backdrop, Mira's visions deepened, her connection to foreign realms both a curse and a beacon guiding the group's discoveries. Mayor Blackwood's duplicity surfaced under pressure when Gideon confronted him with evidence of concealed portal incidents. Blackwood confessed that containment protocols had been abandoned years ago, choosing repression over confrontation. This betrayal fueled the survivors' resolve to take control of their fate and dismantle the latent machinery perpetuating the instability. The town's survival depended on mastering these disjointed realities before the portals consumed everything familiar. As days unfolded, the city's temporal anomalies intensified. Streets blurred between epochs, and residents reported spectral glimpses of past and future selves. The tension between maintaining normalcy and confronting the surreal threatened to fracture the fragile unity holding the survivors together. Each portal opening carried the risk of permanent loss or transformation into something unrecognizable. The fragile hope rested on their ability to comprehend and influence the volatile gateway they inhabited. By tracing the alignment of portal surges, the team identified focal points where dimensional energy intersected most densely. They constructed containment fields at these sites, using a blend of Thaddeus's engineering, Celine's theoretical models, and Lysandra's ancient knowledge. Slowly, gaps slowed their violent fluctuations but did not cease entirely. The partial success kindled cautious optimism, a chance to stabilize without eradicating, preserving the town's identity while safeguarding its reality. Yet even these victories came with costs. Mira's mental state worsened as she absorbed more of the portal's foreign energies. Gideon's outings became more perilous, and fractures appeared not only in the environment, but within the group's trust, strained by Corwin's schemes and Blackwood's secrets. The town became a pressure cooker of desperation and determination. Everyone realized this fragile equilibrium might rupture at any moment, plunging them into realms from which there was no return. Each member of the team grappled with their own demons amid the cosmic chaos. Thaddeus's leadership was a beacon, but also a burden as he faced impossible choices. Celine balanced scientific rigor with intuition, while Lysandra invoked wisdom from distant worlds. Mira's haunting memories fueled their urgency, and Gideon's relentless vigilance shielded them from unknown horrors. Opposing them, Corwin's unpredictable power cast a shadow, ever reminding the survivors that control was an illusion they had yet to grasp fully. In this crucible of fractured realities and fragile human resolve, the town held its breath. The gateways between worlds blinked like unstable stars, threatening to extinguish everything familiar. The survivors' next steps were critical, whether to embrace the challenge of harnessing the chaotic power or to find a way to sever the town's connection to these limitless dimensions. What lay beyond waiting changed with every portal's flicker, and the choice would shape not only their fate, but the fate of the multiverse itself. As the team prepared for the next critical experiment to deepen their control over the portals, a new, unforeseen breach opened nearby, shimmering with colors never seen. The haunting echoes beckoned tantalizingly, a reminder that their journey through this unstable crossroads had only just begun. The question now loomed larger than ever. Could they secure the fragile gateway city before it was swallowed whole by the vast unknown? The answer would unfold in the chapters yet to come. Психологические раны реальности. The city's quiet streets thrummed with a tension that was invisible to most. Yet everything changed the moment the portals flickered into existence. Thaddeus Crane stood at the edge of the square, eyes darting nervously over the crowd. His pulse hammered, a mix of fear and fascination as distant whispers from other dimensions brushed the edges of his mind. Beside him, Selena Virelis adjusted her equipment, her gaze scanning for the telltale signs of rupture as she murmured, "Every portal leaves a fragment behind, an imprint on our reality." But these imprints were not just physical. They were mental, psychological wounds inflicted on those unlucky enough to come near. Mira Caldwin shivered, her fingers trembling against the faded scarf wrapped tightly around her neck. Memories surfaced unbidden, images not hers but undeniably vivid. Desolate plains drenched in crimson skies, voices from a fractured past that echoed with despair. "Why am I remembering these things?" she asked, voice barely a whisper. "They feel as real as my own childhood." Thaddeus placed a steady hand on her shoulder, trying to anchor her to the present. He had seen this before. People changed profoundly by their interactions with the portals, their consciousnesses splintered and infused with alien experiences. These were not just hallucinations, they were psychological scars carried across dimensions, and the city was becoming a graveyard for fractured minds. Corwin Hale's silhouette appeared from the shadows, his sharp gaze fixed on the group. The man who controlled the delicate energy of the portals exuded a cold dominance. "Your fear feeds the ruptures," he declared, voice low and commanding. "You cannot close what you do not understand." His mastery over the portals, however malevolent, was undeniable. Yet even he seemed haunted, as if the psychological cost of manipulating such forces weighed heavily on his own soul. Below the surface of Corwin's iron will, Lysandra Finch recognized a fracture that echoed her own. She had spent years deciphering the ancient texts, hinting that these portals were gateways not only to other dimensions, but also to the deepest recesses of the human psyche. Eamon Blackwood, the city's mayor, remained elusive, masking his dread behind strained smiles and carefully crafted decrees. He had long concealed the true nature of the city's predicament from its citizens, hoping ignorance would stave off panic. Yet the cracks in his facade were growing. One afternoon, Thaddeus confronted him privately. "This isn't just about portals or disappearances anymore, Eamon," Thaddeus warned. "The people are losing themselves." The mayor's eyes flickered with a mix of desperation and guilt. If the city is to survive, the psychological toll must be managed, or we will be lost to chaos. But managing such forces required knowledge and courage far beyond what the city's broken institutions could muster. Gideon Rook, once a hardened anomaly hunter, had become a reluctant survivor amid the growing chaos. His demeanor, rough-edged but vigilant, told stories of battles fought on the knife's edge of reality. He shared with Thaddeus a chilling account of a recent encounter. A brief portal opened in the alley where a terrified woman vanished, only to reappear days later, her eyes hollow, muttering in forgotten tongues. Whatever those portals touch, Gideon murmured darkly. They don't just displace bodies. They tear at the soul. His words resonated deeply with Selene, who had noticed similar cases during her research. The transformation was irreversible, a psychological entropy spreading through those who touched the thresholds. Selene pored over data streams and fragmented recordings, piecing together a disturbing theory. The portals, she explained, didn't just bridge worlds, but entwined the consciousnesses of travelers, leaving ghostly impressions as chewed-up memories that altered perceptions and rewired minds. It is a contagion in the psyche, she said, each exposure fracturing sanity a little more. Thaddeus understood then that their battle was not merely to close physical rifts, but to explore the labyrinths of collective trauma embedded in the city's very fabric. If left unchecked, this merging of realities and minds might shatter their identities altogether, leaving them as mere echoes lost between dimensions. Lysandra's research added a spiritual dimension to these observations. Many echoes Mira experienced, she explained, corresponded with ancient rituals and symbols found in long-forgotten eras. These rifts are not random incidents, Lysandra proposed. They resonate with higher laws, laws of balance and transformation that our understanding cannot yet grasp. The psychological distortions reflected deeper universal processes, birth, death, and rebirth across realms. Yet those caught in the crossfire bore the brunt as their minds struggled to reconcile fractured existences. Lysandra warned, the longer these echoes persist, the harder it will be to tell where one reality ends and another begins. The group gathered nightly in safe houses, sharing experiences and piecing together clues. Mira, once fearful and withdrawn, began to confront her memories with Thaddeus's guidance. Each revelation brought terrifying clarity. Her mind had been a vessel for countless realities, trapping pieces of countless lives. The psychological wounds bled into the waking world, causing nightmares and dissociations that threatened sanity. We are becoming mosaics of forgotten realms, she confessed. But what happens when the mosaic cracks? The chilling question hung in the air, heavy with unresolved dread. Corwin's interference grew more aggressive as the team edged closer to uncovering the truths behind the ruptures. He manipulated the energy flows, creating increasingly unpredictable portal activity. His motivations remained murky, but hinted at a desire to harness the chaos for himself, to control the unstable gateway for power beyond reckoning. Selene warned, every portal he forces open sends shockwaves through the collective consciousness, accelerating the psychological decay. Thaddeus realized that fighting external threats was only half the battle. They also had to support each other's fractured minds or risk losing themselves entirely. Amon's hidden archives eventually yielded a fragmented map of the city's energy nodes, points where the veil between dimensions was particularly thin. If we can stabilize these nodes, Amon suggested cautiously, we might anchor the city and halt the mental unraveling. Yet undertaking such a task required confronting the heart of the portal's instability, which was intertwined with the city's very existence. The idea of severing or controlling what made the city unique was terrifying, for it might mean erasing the place or transforming it beyond recognition. Still, the alternative was dissolution, total loss to the unknown. As trust grew among the survivors, Gideon's once solitary nature softened. He began to mentor Mira, teaching her to withstand the psychological assaults by grounding herself through rituals and mental discipline. We fight the portal's pull by holding to what's ours, he said firmly. This camaraderie became a crucial lifeline amid chaos, a reminder that even fractured minds could find strength in shared experience. Each step closer to understanding the portal paradoxically intensified the mental strain, but surrender was no longer an option. The city breathed uneasily beneath the looming threat of its own dissolution. Psychological wounds widened, stitching together the fabric of collective fear and loss. Mira's fragmented memories became a metaphor for the city itself, a fragile mosaic teetering between existence and oblivion. The survivors faced not only external dangers, but internal battles against the ruination of their identities. They were guardians of a soul torn between worlds, tasked with a mission that was as much about healing minds as containing supernatural forces. With every portal that flickered into life, the burden grew heavier. The balance between closure and collapse hung by a thread, and the survivors knew that understanding the psychological toll was key to stabilizing their home. The path forward demanded courage, scientific insight, and emotional resilience against the tide of unknown realities. As Thaddeus glanced at his weary companions, he realized their journey had become one of redemption for both the city and themselves, a quest to mend the fragile boundaries that tethered them to reality before all was lost to the endless void of the multiverse. Their story was far from over, and the next step would plunge them even deeper into the mysteries that bound thought, memory, and universe together, challenging everything they believed about consciousness and existence itself. Zagavarmera. The damp air in the forsaken council chamber clung to their skin as Thaddeus Crane stared down the blunt words in the crumpled letter. Selene Virelis, ever meticulous, traced her fingers along the faded ink, her brow furrowed deeply. "Eamon Blackwood," she whispered. "He promised us transparency, a plan to seal the portals. Yet here he conceals something far darker, something involving Corwin Hale." The room seemed to grow colder as the implications unfolded between them. For once, the fragile alliance of survivors faced a truth more terrifying than the portals themselves. Betrayal from their own mayor. Mira Caldwin sat quietly in the shadow, her eyes clouded with memories. Not her own, but fragments drawn from those who vanished inside the rifts. Those haunting images flickered behind her lids, vast spectral cities, twisted shadows slithering just beyond comprehension, and impossible geometries that defied human sense. She clenched her fists, desperate to ground herself. "He's been covering for Corwin," she finally said, voice trembling. "Blackwood's motives might not be just political survival. He's playing a dangerous game with powers that could consume this town, and all of us, with it." Gideon Rook leaned back, a skeptical flicker in his gaze. "Corwin Hale controlling the breaches. It explains a lot," he mused. "Every time a portal flares uncontrolled, a power surge, a new anomaly emerging, someone's pulling strings behind the curtain. But why would Blackwood let that happen? Or worse, aid him?" Lysandra Finch, the stoic expert on ancient dimensions, shook her head slowly. "Because Blackwood is not simply a pawn. He believes controlling the fractures is the only way to save Gateway Town from being swallowed whole. But his methods, they're reckless." Thaddeus, feeling the weight of leadership settle on his shoulders, paced the length of the chamber. He needed clarity, a way to unravel the web of deception before it strangled them all. He remembered the first time Blackwood addressed the survivors, his words laced with hope, a promise to unite the fractured town and close the portals forever. Now it seemed those words had been a mask, concealing clandestine dealings with Corwin, who was known to manipulate the chaotic energies for personal power. "We trusted him," Thaddeus muttered bitterly. "That trust nearly cost us everything." Selene stepped forward, determination bright in her eyes. "The portal technology isn't random," she explained. "There is a pattern to the openings, an underlying matrix that Corwin exploits. Blackwood knew this and withheld the data to maintain control. Corwin's intent is not merely domination. It is to transform the town into a stable conduit between dimensions, regardless of the cost to the inhabitants." Mira shivered involuntarily at the thought, recalling friends lost or returned, warped beyond recognition. "We are caught between their ambitions," she murmured, "and it's tearing us apart." Gideon's hand instinctively went to the old hunting knife at his belt, worn from countless encounters with anomalies. If these portals are being harnessed, he growled, then we're fighting not just for survival, but for control over a power that defies nature. Blackwood's secrecy gave Corwin the foothold he needed. Our task is to sever that link, even if it means confronting the mayor himself. Lysandra, ever the voice of reason, added, "The ancient texts I've studied describe such a scenario. A city trapped in a cyclical limbo, bound by a fragile barrier that can collapse at any moment. Blackwood's deal with Corwin risks unraveling that barrier entirely." Thaddeus halted mid-step, absorbing the magnitude of their predicament. Their town was not merely a victim of dimensional chaos. It was an active battleground for competing forces with stakes beyond comprehension. Celine's voice cut through the tension, whispering an idea. If we can isolate the core energy source powering the portals, we might disrupt Corwin's control and force Blackwood's hand. But it's dangerous. The instability could accelerate, causing mass disappearances or, worse. For a fleeting moment, the room was silent except for the distant hum of the city, pulses of light flickering at the edges of reality itself. Mira's gaze met Thaddeus's, her resolve hardening. "We cannot let fear control us," she said firmly. "Those who vanished, those who returned, they all urge us forward. Their sacrifice cannot be in vain. We have to expose Blackwood's conspiracy and end Corwin's manipulation before Gateway Town becomes nothing more than a memory lost between dimensions." Gideon nodded solemnly, rising to his feet. "Then let's make sure they hear us. We'll gather what evidence we can, confront the mayor, and dismantle the core infrastructure enabling these portals. No more lies, no more disappearances." Lysandra pointed toward the ancient, rune-covered map spread across the table. "This shows the shifting points where the most unstable portals manifest. If we synchronize our actions with the predicted surges, we may gain a tactical advantage." The group's hope flickered, fragile yet persistent. They knew the perils ahead. Corwin was a formidable foe, and Blackwood's betrayal deepened the wounds of their fractured trust. But their collective will burned brighter than the ethereal fires licking at the edges of their city's fabric. As the survivors prepared to step back into the tangled urban labyrinth haunted by temporal echoes, Thaddeus allowed himself a moment of steely resolve. This confrontation would not merely be a battle for Gateway Town, it was a fight for the very essence of reality as they knew it. With Selene and Lysandra devising strategies, Mira's cryptic insights, and Gideon's hardened instincts, they formed a fragile but determined front. The path forward was fraught with peril, but to remain paralyzed by fear was to surrender their home to oblivion. The shadows outside grew restless, whispering promises and threats from beyond the veil. Thaddeus took a final breath, ready to pull the threads of the conspiracy apart and expose the depths of Blackwood's deception. Somewhere in the shifting corridors of power, Corwin Hale awaited, weaving the next phase of his dark design. The tilt of fate balanced delicately, and the team's next moves could determine whether Gateway Town endured as a sanctuary or vanished as a forgotten crossroads in the endless multiverse. Their journey toward truth and survival was only beginning. The portal's unstable pulse beckoned, and with it, the dawn of a perilous reckoning that would challenge every conviction, every bond, and every secret they thought was safe. Ловушка и охотники. The evening air in the town settled heavy with unease as Thaddeus Crane surveyed the flickering portal tear just beyond the cracked pavement. It pulsed with a strange, unsettling light that twisted the shadows around it in obscure ways. Beside him, Selene Virellis adjusted the delicate instruments monitoring the rift's volatility, her breath steady yet tight with tension. For weeks, they had witnessed these transient gateways materializing unpredictably, swallowing fragments of their reality and spitting out echoes from elsewhere. These were no mere anomalies. The town itself was a crucible, suspended perilously between dimensions. From the depths of the dim alley, a figure emerged with practiced silence. Gideon Rook, a battered yet resolute anomaly hunter, approached with a wary smile. His knowledge of the city's hidden dangers was earned through bitter losses and close encounters with things humans were never meant to see. "Status on the Rip?" he asked, voice gravelly, yet edged with calm purpose. Thaddeus explained the readings while Selena added, "Its instability has increased tenfold in the last cycle. We are running out of time." Gideon's eyes narrowed. "Then we need to act fast. Every moment this thing breathes wider, the fabric between her and whatever that place is fraying more." Despite their urgency, not all shared their conviction. Eamon Blackwood, the city's mayor, maintained a polished facade but carried an unease beneath. Officially, he dismissed the portals as temporary disturbances, but whispers in the corridors hinted he concealed deeper truths. Thaddeus harbored suspicion of the man's motives, especially given the growing disappearances and disturbing reports from affected neighborhoods. Desperation clung to the air like dust as the portal's pulse grew more intense, threatening to swallow whole districts if left unchecked. The group gathered beneath the skeletal remains of an ancient elm, where Lysandra Finch spread out yellowed texts bound in cracked leather. Her expertise in archaic dimensions provided rare insights into the portal's origin. "These tears," she said softly, "are not random. Someone or something is manipulating the folds in our reality, corrupting the seal. Our adversary is no mere force of chaos, but a cunning puppeteer." Her gaze fixed on the cryptic symbols as Corwin Hale's name hung heavy in the chilling silence. The man was believed to have command over these unstable rifts, using them as weapons in prisons alike. Mira Kaldwin, still trembling from eerie memories of a dimension where time looped endlessly, winced as she recounted the dread she carried back. Her mind bore shards of a reality warped beyond comprehension, a haunting legacy that unsettled even the steadfast Gideon. "There's something in those fragments," she whispered, "something that does not want to be found." Her fear was contagious, knitting the group tighter in their shared vulnerability. Each portal closed behind her like a door slammed shut on sanity itself. Their mission was clear: close these menacing gateways before their town dissolved into oblivion or worse, became prey to an unknown cosmic force. Gideon proposed a plan rooted in his experience hunting phantom anomalies. "We bait the rifts," he explained, with a containment field woven around the weakest tear. "Then we use Lysandra's relics to stabilize and seal it. But it won't be easy. Corwin Hale's traps will be waiting." The mere mention of Hale sent a shiver through the group. The villain was notorious for twisting reality's threads into vicious snares, leaving victims twisted physically and mentally. Selene's fingers danced over her equipment, configuring devices that could detect these mental assaults and trace the distortions back to their source. Days passed in tense preparation. The streets hummed with rumors as disappeared persons became grim statistics. Meanwhile, Eamon's enigmatic absences fueled distrust. Thaddeus confronted him under the neon glow of the city's decaying heart, demanding answers. The mayor's reply was fragmented and evasive, his voice barely hiding his own terror. "The city, the portal, it is not just a prison, but a battleground. Powers far beyond us vie for control. We must survive this long enough to find a way out." His words neither comforted nor clarified wholly, but they underscored the deepening crisis. As the team set their trap near a particularly volatile fissure on the city outskirts, the landscape itself seemed to resist. Time warped, shapes flickering between moments as though reality flickered on a faulty screen. Suddenly, a cunningly concealed ambush shattered the fragile calm. Phantom shades, warped echoes of lost travelers, lunged from the rift's edges, their forms flickering with agonized memories. Gideon drew his weapon with steady hands and led the defense with ruthless efficiency. Selena deployed her devices, emitting pulses that disrupted the creature's hold on this plane, while Lysandra invoked incantations learned from forbidden tomes, bonds of ancient power weaving around the breach. In the chaos, Mira's eyes glazed over as an intrusive vision seized her. She glimpsed Corwin Hale manipulating the portal's heartbeat with sinister glee, a puppeteer pulling the strings of fate to trap them all. "He controls the flows," she gasped before collapsing, drained and mumbling warnings of collapse. The team barely held together, salvaging their fragile gains. When the dust settled, the portal's violent pulse calmed, but the threat was far from over. The trap was set, yet Hale's machinations continued beneath the surface like dark currents threatening to pull the town under. Exhausted but resolute, Thaddeus gathered the group beneath a sky smeared with unnatural auroras, a spectral reminder of the fracture looming over them. "We've won this skirmish," he said solemnly, "but the war for the city's soul is just beginning. Hale's next move will be more cunning, more devastating." The fragile alliance of knowledge, courage, and desperation stood as the city's thin line between disintegration and some slim hope of salvation. As shadows stretched long, each member sensed fate's cruel weight settling deeper. The next steps might decide not only their lives, but the reality tethering the gateway town itself. And as the final echoes of the night faded, Selene's devices beeped urgently, registering a new anomaly, twisting into being far beyond their current reach. The game had changed once more, and the players had no choice but to follow the trail deeper into the unknown. Борьба за сохранение города. Thaddeus Crane stood at the heart of Gateway Town's cracked plaza, eyes fixed on the shimmering rift hovering mere feet away. The air around it rippled as if reality itself wavered, casting distorted shadows on the weathered cobblestones. Every pulse from the portal sent a cold shiver racing down his spine. Selene Varellis adjusted the complex device strapped to her arm, her face pale but resolute. "This surge is unlike anything we've seen before," she muttered, scanning rapidly through her digital readouts. The city's instability was worsening, and with each oscillation, the threads holding the town's fragile existence threatened to unravel further. Across the plaza, Corwin Hale's silhouette emerged from the dim fog that clung to the edges of the fading twilight. His eyes gleamed with a sinister intensity as he extended a hand, manipulating unseen forces that warped the edges of a distant portal. His control over the chaotic discharges of energy had unnerved everyone. "You cannot stop the inevitable, Thaddeus." His voice was low and mocking. "The cracks will consume all, and I will ascend beyond them." The group tensed. Corwin's ambitions carried a darkness that could tear the town apart from the inside out. Mira Caldwin lingered nearby, her gaze distant and haunted. Memories encroached upon her mind like shards of alien landscapes and echoing screams. Her time trapped beyond the portals had changed her irrevocably. "They are not just doorways," she whispered, voice trembling with a mix of fear and awe. "They carry fragments, pieces of other worlds, other times bleeding into this one. If these fragments twist our reality too much, Gateway Town will become something unrecognizable." Her revelation stirred the team's urgency. The stakes had grown beyond mere survival. Mayor Eamon Blackwood arrived abruptly, his demeanor calm but his eyes betraying urgent secrets. He held back information long enough, but now the veil was lifting. "The town's location is not by chance," he confessed reluctantly. "Gateway Town is anchored to a colossal unstable portal network beyond our comprehension. This reality is only one strand in a chaotic web. If we cannot stabilize or sever these connections, we will dissolve into the multiverse, lost forever." His admission deepened the weight of their mission. No longer could they pretend the town's mysterious anomalies were mere accidents. Lysandra Finch approached slowly, clutching a weathered tome adorned with cryptic symbols. Her expertise in ancient dimensions brought a thread of hope. "We must understand the pattern," she insisted. "Each portal opening is a ripple, a resonance caused by these interdimensional tears. If we can trace the source frequencies and harmonize them, perhaps we can anchor the city back to a single reality." Her voice carried determination, but also the humility of the unknown. The path ahead was fraught with perils beyond reckoning. Gideon Rook crouched in the shadows, eyes sharp and movements cautious. As a survivor turned anomaly hunter, his experience was vital. "I've tracked odd disturbances near the eastern sector," he reported, fingers tracing makeshift maps on cracked concrete. "Corwin's been amplifying some rifts there, creating power vacuums that destabilize everything around them. If we let that continue, the whole city will implode from within." His grim warning punctuated the escalating crisis. The team had no margin for error. Tensions flared as strategy meetings spiraled into disputes. Thaddeus, burdened by the weight of leadership, clashed with Celine over the scientific approaches. "Your theoretical models won't save lives if we don't act now," he snapped. Celine's calm facade cracked, frustration seeping in. "Rushing in blind is what got us into this mess. We need precision to avoid triggering worse ruptures." The fragile unity teetered as trust wavered under pressure. Mira stepped in, her voice steady. "We have to find common ground. Our differences can't be our undoing," her plea echoed in the tense silence. Meanwhile, Corwin deepened his manipulations in the east, feeding on the instability like a parasite. His forces grew bolder, creating violent surges that shattered buildings and claimed desperate lives. Lysandra's investigations uncovered traces of ancient symbols etched near his campsites, suggesting a sinister, forgotten power fueling his control. "He's tapping into primal elements of the multiverse," she warned. "This is beyond mere human conflict. The fight is cosmic." The realization sowed dread but galvanized the survivors. The city's fabric degraded rapidly. Streets that once felt familiar distorted beneath feet, colors bleeding unnaturally into each other. Portals flickered open without warning, releasing strange sounds and shadows glimpsed only in nightmares. Every moment was a battle against unseen forces that sought to unmake everything. Thaddeus's resolve hardened. Failure was no longer an option. He rallied the team for a final push to seal the largest rifts, relying on Celine's technology, Lysandra's ancient knowledge, and Gideon's tactical prowess. In a desperate operation under a moon veiled by rolling storm clouds, the group navigated crumbling alleyways toward the epicenter of the city's chaos. Mira's insights about the psychic residue left by the vanished guided their steps, while Eamon's citywide resources provided vital support despite his earlier secrecy. As they reached the main rupture, Corwin appeared, his dark energy crackling like a living storm. The ultimate confrontation was inevitable. Words would fail. Only actions could define the fate of Gateway Town. The ensuing battle was a tempest of wills and power. Thaddeus and Corwin clashed amid twisting realities where time flickered like a faulty lantern. Celine's devices hummed, desperately trying to stabilize the flow of energies, while Lysandra chanted incantations from lost ages to bind the chaotic forces. Gideon unleashed traps laced with rare elements to suppress Corwin's influence. Mira fought to protect innocents caught in the crossfire, her lingering memories granting glimpses of future dangers. Each second felt stretched across eternity. As dawn approached, the tide began to shift. Corwin, weakened but unbroken, withdrew into a fading portal with a vow of return. The ruptures slowly sealed, the city's contours regaining solidity. Exhausted but unyielding, the team gathered amid the fragile peace, knowing this victory was but a fleeting reprieve. Gateway Town still trembled on the edge of incomprehensible depths. The struggle for survival and understanding would continue. The scars left on both the city and its defenders were deep. Trust had been tested, alliances forged in fire and uncertainty. Secrets still lurked beneath layers of fractured time. Thaddeus glanced at the fading horizon, determination burning in his eyes. We have learned much, but this is not the end. There are truths yet uncovered, forces yet to face. The journey forward was a narrow bridge over abyss, yet none dared step back now. In this city of portals, every ending was just another beginning. With the first rays of sunlight piercing the mist, the survivors prepared themselves for what lay beyond the closing gates. The fight to safeguard Gateway Town had revealed its true nature, but mysteries remained hidden, waiting in the shadows of dimensions unseen. The path to the next phase of their ordeal beckoned, promising revelations and perils alike. The battle for existence was far from over. Новый рассвет или конец истории. The sky above the city gleamed in unsettling hues, shadows shifting as if the air itself whispered warnings. Thaddeus Crane stood at the heart of the town square, eyes fixed on the unstable rifts, flickering over the cobblestones like fragile tears in a fabric of reality. Each portal throbbed with potent energy, unpredictable and wild. The townsfolk whispered rumors, terrified to step outside after sundown, for anyone caught in these ephemeral gateways might vanish forever or return irrevocably changed. The city's fate balanced precariously on the edge of oblivion. Selene Virelis moved beside Thaddeus, her expressions a careful blend of exhaustion and resolve. The countless hours poring over arcane texts and scientific data had revealed a painful truth. Their city was not only stranded in space, but trapped within a living gateway, a titanic portal unstable and throbbing with chaotic power. Their mission was clear, though fraught with impossible choices: to either seal the portals forever, risking the loss of mysterious energies that might save or condemn them, or embrace the unknown, using the portal's vast energies to attempt a salvation never before seen. Within the gathering twilight, a chilling presence made itself felt. Corwin Hale appeared, shadow-like and commanding, his intentions as cryptic as the portals themselves. Corwin claimed dominion over the most dangerous of these extensions, controlling rips in reality with a mastery that defied belief. His words to Thaddeus were laced not just with arrogance, but with a terrifying vision, a world melded from countless dimensions, his own rules stretching beyond comprehension. To Corwin, the portals were instruments of power to conquer, not vulnerabilities to mend. Meanwhile, Mira Caldwin lingered at the fringe of the square, her eyes haunted. Among the survivors, she was a living riddle. Abducted through a portal weeks ago, she returned with memories fragmented and twisted, snippets of other worlds surfacing in her mind like ghosts. Her knowledge of foreign landscapes and eras was invaluable, yet equally frightening. Did her altered mind carry the keys to salvation, or did it harbor seeds of destruction? Her frantic efforts to communicate visions only deepened the urgency surrounding their dilemma. In the city's shadowed council chambers, Mayor Eamon Blackwood wrestled with truths he had long concealed. His political facade cracked under the pressure of the growing crisis. Pockets of silence betrayed an intimate knowledge of the portal's origins and their terrible cost. His decisions had been driven by a secret desperation to maintain order, yet now it threatened to fracture the fragile trust between citizen and government. To forge a path forward, he would need to confront his past misdeeds and unite the divided factions that teetered on the brink of collapse. Lysandra Finch arrived swiftly from her studies of ancient dimensions, her presence a beacon of hope. Armed with forgotten lore and esoteric knowledge passed down by civilizations long lost to time, she was convinced that the portals were not random catastrophes but remnants of an ancient cosmic mechanism. If harnessed correctly, these gateways could be stabilized, offering a bridge not only to survival, but to unprecedented enlightenment. Lysandra's knowledge gave Thaddeus and Selene a glimmer of possibility in the encroaching darkness. Gideon Rook, scarred and wary, prowl the city's outskirts like a predator guarding what few safe zones remained. His experience hunting anomalies made him invaluable. Every encounter sharpened his instincts and hardened his resolve. Gideon's voice was blunt but honest as he recounted the escalating dangers the portals posed. Creatures slipping through from voids unknown, shifting the fabric of reality with each interaction. He warned that the longer the gates remained open, the more the city would unravel, risking assimilation into chaotic realms beyond comprehension. The tension among the group escalated as the hours bled away. Each member wrestled with profound choices as portals flared unpredictably, some sprouting eerie landscapes of forgotten epochs, others spiraling into shadowed worlds teeming with unimaginable threats. Thaddeus realized that closure meant sacrifice, possibly losing what remained of their humanity or severing ties to worlds that might hold salvation. Conversely, embracing the portal's power demanded vigilance against a descent into madness or domination by forces like Corwin. As twilight merged with night, an overwhelming pulse reverberated through the city's core. Every portal surged violently, threatening to converge into a single cataclysmic breach. Selene's visor flickered with erratic readings while Mira's tremulous memory fragments fell into chaotic alignment. The moment of truth had come. With Lysandra's ancient incantations and Gideon's tactical prowess, the survivors braced to confront Corwin's grasp and wrest control of the portals. The city's very existence hinged on their unity and cunning. Aemon stepped forward, his voice breaking through the cacophony of fears and doubts. He confessed his hidden knowledge of the portal's origins, revealing a painful truth. The city had been an experiment, a nexus designed for testing dimensional traversal that went horribly wrong. That secret ignited a wave of anger and despair, but also steeled their determination. No longer pawns of fate, they chose to fight, to redefine their destiny, either sealing the gateway permanently or learning to wield its force wisely. As the portals fluctuated, a choice crystallized. Destroy the gateways to preserve what fragment of normalcy remained or stabilize and embrace the endless possibilities, an uncertain gamble veiled in darkness but promising rebirth. Thaddeus grappled with his own fears and hopes, the weight of leadership pressing heavy on his shoulders. He looked to Selene, Mira, and Lysandra, seeing mirrored reflections of courage and doubt. Together with Gideon and Aemon, they formed an unbreakable circle of shared resolve. In the crescendo of light and shadow, with reality itself trembling, the team enacted their plan. Corwin was confronted not with brute force, but with an appeal to reason and the fragile bond they all shared as guardians of the threshold between worlds. The battle was not merely physical, but spiritual, a clash of wills shaped by memories, dreams, and the faint threads of hope spun across infinite dimensions. Time twisted as the city held its breath, balanced on the edge between historic ruin and a new dawn. When dawn finally broke, the portals shimmered but no longer threatened to consume or scatter. Some sealed with quiet finality, while others steadied into stable conduits, pulsing with controlled energy. The city exhaled, its people emerging slowly from shelters to witness what fate had wrought. Mira's eyes, once clouded by foreign echoes, now gleamed with clarity, hinting at inner peace born from chaos. Aemon committed to transparency, pledging an era of honesty and collaboration. The future remained uncertain, but charged with the promise of renewal and discovery. Thaddeus stood atop the tallest rooftop, gazing beyond the horizon where fractured light met deepening sky. The city was scarred but alive, a testament to resilience amid fragmentation. The lesson was clear. Portals need not be prisons, but bridges, if approached with wisdom and unity. As his team regrouped, ready to face the challenges still lingering in the shadows, a new chapter awaited beyond the fragile balance they had forged. The city, a gateway no longer solely to destruction but to possibility, awaited the next step in its extraordinary tale.